It's that time of the week where we check in with Dr. Isaac Bogoch, infectious diseases specialist, talking about all things sort of public health and infectious diseases. Dr. Bogoch, good to see you this morning. Glad to talk to you about this. We were just talking about this before we came up on air. We're cheering on the Canadian athletes over in Italy right now, enjoying the Olympics a lot. However, this Norovirus outbreak among some of the teams has interrupted the women's hockey tournament. What kind of challenges does containing something like this pose to the organizers in an athlete's village where, you know, they're kind of packed in there?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people have heard of norovirus. It can cause a very abrupt onset of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. People feel just awful with this. Many people viewing might have had this in the past. Usually the syndrome lasts for 24 to 48 hours, but it's very contagious. So when you have something like an athlete's village, where there's so many people in close proximity to each other, and many people are having shared food venues as well, perhaps buffets. This is a prime area for this virus to be transmitted. You just have to take extreme precautions to prevent transmission, impeccable hand hygiene, wiping off high contact surfaces, and really not having any shared food sources. You can get this under control, and I think it sounds like it is so far, but again, we'll hear more about it. Hopefully it doesn't pose significant disruption to the games.
Yeah, let's hope not. And you know, this next situation, Dr. Bogoch, may seem really similar to the last topic, but of course, here we are, you know, February 10th, a lot of people getting ready for spring break or March break getaways. But recently, hundreds of people on board a cruise ship came down with symptoms of gastroenteritis. Is there any way travelers can prepare or prevent being part of an outbreak like that if you're on board a ship, or is it kind of like no matter what, you could get it?
Yeah, you know, and norovirus is the likely culprit. There's a lot of different viruses that can cause this, but norovirus is the most common one, and it's well known to cause outbreaks on cruise ships. And really the key here is people eating at the buffet table and continuing to touch high contact surfaces and sadly get infected, or person-to-person transmission, for example, household members as well in close proximity. The best way to prevent this is to really have impeccable hand hygiene. And of course, if you can avoid buffets and high contact surfaces where everyone's touching the exact same spoon to serve food, you know, that's a helpful way to prevent it. But you know, when it can be quite challenging, and we've seen outbreaks on cruise ships multiple times before.
So there's no sort of vaccine you could take to potentially avoid that, right? It's kind of like, it's just is what it is. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
And I know that you and Jen talked a lot about travel precautions last week, but it's kind of topical yet again this week, Dr. Bogoch. We're talking about flights being canceled to Cuba because of what's happening there in terms of fuel. But the other situation on that island is this surge of infectious diseases like chikungunya, dengue, or Bogoch. What kind of advice? I mean, it's funny. I wrote this question last night before everybody had, you know, canceled all their flights there. But if you were considering a trip either to Cuba or potentially other Caribbean islands, because let's face it, some of these are transmitted by, you know, bugs, etc. What would you say to people considering a trip right now with that, you know, going around?
Yeah, Nick, you're spot on. I mean, these are mosquito-transmitted infections. They're all over Latin America and the Caribbean, and also globally. You know, and they can cause significant symptoms and disrupt a trip. Remember, we work so hard for our precious time off. You want to have a healthy, safe, and happy trip. Avoiding mosquito bites is key. So you can use a couple of different products. 30% DEET, usually applied every 3 to 4 hours, or of course when you get out of the pool. The other product, if people don't want to use DEET, is something called Icardin or Picardin. Again, commercially available in Canada. 20% Icardin products applied every 3 to 4 hours. They're very good at preventing mosquito bites. Yeah, of course, if you're sweating and it's really hot, you might need to reapply it more frequently. But I think the other key here is seeking pre-travel advice. And there may be other things other than these viruses to watch out for. But these are mosquito-transmitted viruses. They're pretty common, and they can make you feel rather crummy. So the key issue here is don't get bit.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. You work so hard to get that vacation. You don't want to spend it in bed or, quite frankly, on the toilet or whatever. Okay, Dr. Bogoch, always appreciate the insights and advice. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Nick.